Rumors are circulating that Gavin Newsom intends to run for president, and while he and his wife seem to think that's a great thing, the rest of America should truly think that's a terrible thing. Welcome to my channel, Outspoken Samantha. If you are new here, welcome. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. And if you're returning, welcome back. I truly appreciate your continued support, and I hope that you are subscribed as well, particularly if you are watching on Rumble, because we do need to support platforms that support free speech, and YouTube is just not that. So I'm going to try something really quick here. I'm going to say a few words, and I want you to tell me the state that pops into your brain when you hear these words immediately. Homeless. Drug overdoses, crime, poor education, filth, poverty, fentanyl. So I don't know about you guys, but the first state that always pops into my brain is California when I hear those things. And that is not a good thing, at least not to those of us who are sane and actually have expectations for the people that we put in charge to make our lives better. But that doesn't seem to be the same standard for the left. And while I do think of California immediately when I hear things like drug overdoses and homelessness, what's becoming obvious that there are a lot of states across the country that are catching up to the same reputation. So making a distinction between states like California and Oregon and Illinois and New York is getting harder and harder to make. The rumor has been circulating that Gavin Newsom might throw his hat in the ring for the 2024 presidential race, and I absolutely believe that he will. I really think that this is something that's going to happen. Let me know if you agree or disagree, but it's astonishing because his whole campaign slogan looks like it's going to be, "Let me do for the US what I have done for California," which honestly should terrify everybody. So according to an article in the New York Post, this is from June 15th, 2023, so just a couple of weeks ago, it says, Gavin Newsom is running for president. He may not have announced yet, but there's no doubt about it. He's off. This week, Kamala Harris and Jill Biden stepped up as President Biden underwent root canal work, though it's rumored that the vice president was already due to give a speech and the president chose to have root canal work instead, as anyone would. And I can agree, I would probably opt for a root canal over appearing at an engagement with Kamala Harris anyway. But it says, still, as this was going on, the governor of California did some work of his own, as well as making an announcement about a new gun law. He was also this week interviewed by Sean Hannity on Fox. There is no reason why any Democrat governor would put himself up to that unless he had the top prize in his sights. And so it turned out. Newsom used the time he had and splashed all over social media afterwards his version of what a wonderful job he's done in California. So I don't know how well that's going to work out for him. I would like to think that there are enough sane people in America who can look at somebody like Gavin Newsom and look at the state of California and say, I don't think that that guy has our best interests in mind, especially when you ask the people that actually have to live with the consequences of his policies. They have a very different message to send. This is a guy that lives in Los Angeles, and he is talking about just some of the things that are going on at this homeless encampment, and this is unfortunately not an isolated incident. So let's hear what he has to say.
Me to sell the building. We're really in a wild, wild west here in this city.
This is being normalized.
This has been going on for years, as long as I'm downtown.
But when you have the mayor that's dedicating billions of dollars toward the problem, is it just a money issue? Billions.
It's a lack of political will to actually really tackle it. No leadership and lack of will by the private owners to force the leadership to do something.
What am I looking at right here? A fire was set?
You're looking at like a 5,000-foot warehouse that would rent for $15,000 a month. The business is put out of business, and because of the fire, they lost electricity, so all the businesses are put out of business. So all these different families lost their business, and this is just sitting until we sell it.
How was the fire set?
The homeless are sleeping here, and they start fires all the time. It's like there's multiple fires every night in the city of Los Angeles by the homeless.
Thousands of fires set by the homeless in Los Angeles every single night. You know, and it's really sad Because, as I have mentioned before, another business of mine is that I have been in the beauty industry for like 20 years. I have done all kinds of different things. I've worked on production sets, I've worked on commercials, I've worked on weddings. I've done all of it. It's a lot of fun. You get to know a lot of different people and have a lot of very interesting conversations. But early in my career, I always dreamed of moving to Los Angeles. I always thought it would be the greatest place to live. I wanted to work on movies. I wanted to rub shoulders with celebrities. I mean, that was kind of what I wanted to do, and that was my dream. Didn't happen, and I'm perfectly happy with the direction that my career did go in and the opportunity it gave me to be home with my kids when they were little and to still have, control over my schedule and work. Anyway, I would not go near Los Angeles any closer than I have to. I mean, I'm in Texas. Los Angeles is several hundred miles away, and to me, that is close enough. And I also understand that the way that a city is run rests primarily on the mayor. Even in Texas, we have a lot of really great areas. I live really close to Fort Worth. It's a great city. I love the way that it's run, love the mayor here. The way that Dallas is run, the way that Austin is run, the way that Houston is run, we have a lot of these same problems. And even Houston is becoming more and more like Chicago, unfortunately. So I get it. But Gavin Newsom is running on this message that California is this shining beacon of hope to the rest of America, that he's done this great job, that people love the state of California, that people love working there, that everybody's thriving, that people are doing well. I mean, I understand that you can't control everything that goes on in the cities in your state, but he repeatedly refuses to even acknowledge the things that people are going through and the struggles that they're facing. He is pretending that this issue is not happening. He's pretending that businesses are flocking to this state and everybody is, able to find success, and it's not reality. And I really have a hard time with representatives and political leaders who blatantly get out there and share messages that are the opposite of what the people that they are representing have to say. This was another incident recently. It says Los Angeles, the city of fallen angels. A large mob of looters was caught on video looting a gas station in Compton and stealing thousands of dollars worth of merchandise.
Hey, get the stick! Look at these niggas, hey, give me a stick back! Give me a word! Look, they get cigarettes and shit! These niggas, get the stick!
And I don't know who your kid is right there, but you need to bring him home and straighten him out. I am just saying. And a couple of things that are really sad about this is, first of all, that laws have been passed where stealing under like $1,000 is not considered a crime anymore. So these guys know that they can go in and take whatever they want and they're not going to be punished for it. They're not going to be held accountable. Second of all, this is somebody's business. This is somebody's livelihood. This is how somebody supports their family. And this is a store that the community relies on, that people rely on being able to just pop in and get the things that they want. And they can't because these idiots come in and take everything and they're not punished for it. So the people that actually are punished by this behavior are law-abiding citizens, are people that are just trying to live their lives. And Gavin Newsom is out there pretending that this is not happening in literally like every community in California. And this is another one. Apparently this was a Juneteenth celebration where a bunch of teens decided to go in and destroy a McDonald's.
Let's not even see! Oh, they taking the register! Let go! Let go! Let go! I took the register! I took the register! This nigga took the register! He stole the cash register!
And I saw a couple kids in there that I think looked pretty young. So somebody needs to come and get their kids and instill some morals in them. That would be great. And this is another one where these women are just loading stuff into the back of their car from a grocery store. And this blonde woman here is just trying to get their pictures and at least, be able to figure out who it is. But it's not going to do anything because, again, this isn't considered a crime. And if we want to talk about the homeless situation just a little bit more, this says a 2-mile road in Los Angeles next to Hollywood Studios, where shows like Friends, Will and Grace, and Gilmore Girls were filmed, has been overrun by homeless people living in unsafe, unsanitary RVs and trailers. An exclusive video taken by The Post shows trash piling up outside the makeshift camp, which is also strewn with feces and bottles full of urine, just minutes from the Universal Studios theme park, visited by up to 40,000 tourists daily. Nearby business owners complained about the foul smells and black trash bags piling up from the growing number of campers and porta potties provided by local authorities of the ultra-liberal city. And just one more, just for good measure, because like I said, this is not an isolated incident. This is just something that keeps happening in what the state of California is known for. And then we have people like Gavin Newsom, where this guy says, homelessness is my number one priority. Gavin Newsom, his message from 2004 all the way to 2023. And again, it has not gone down. In fact, it has reached unprecedented historic numbers. And again, it's what California is known for. So this is just another street. I believe this is in Los Angeles.
Hey, Babu.
So there are numerous examples of what California looks like, and none of us that actually pay attention are surprised by any of this. It is absolutely disgusting, and it's sad. It is so sad. I mean, I haven't been to San Francisco since I think 2003, I want to say, so it's been a while. But it was a beautiful city. I've been down that sidewalk that zigzags like this. I've been into Chinatown. I've been on the trolley that it's known for. I've been on the wharf. Beautiful city. I would not go near that city if you paid me. It is disgusting. And people are packing up and they are leaving. And it is because of the leadership of that state. And for Gavin Newsom to get out there and put himself as some kind of legitimate leader, as somebody who cares about the well-being of people, because that's your job as a representative. That is your job as, the governor. That is your job as any kind of, senator, Congress, whatever it is. It is your job to represent your people and to do things that protect their rights, including the right to feel safe, including the right to live in a clean city, including the right to not have to fight off criminals for themselves. There are so many videos and so many articles about the things happening in California that just make it an absolute hellhole, that just make it just not the place that anybody should want to live or even visit at this point. And it is really vile to me when a representative or when a governor or, gets out there, the people that are supposed to represent law-abiding citizens get out there and say that they are a wonderful leader and that they care about your needs and about your well-being when their state looks like that. And then there was this bill that was proposed in the California Senate, or it passed by the California Senate. And this was at the beginning of June. And this is how much it shows that the representatives of California are far more concerned about the criminals in their state than they are about the people who just want to live their lives and to run a business and to have their kids go to school and get an education and whatever it is, to just be normal citizens, to have a decent life. And this bill shows that the representatives of California seem to be directly opposed to that. According to this article in Newsweek from June 5th, it says lawmakers in California are hoping to push through controversial legislation that would ban retail staff from stopping thieves from stealing from their stores. Senate Bill 553, which was submitted by State Senator Dave Cortez, has been passed by the state Senate and will now progress to policy committees in the state assembly. Cortez hopes the proposed law will prevent workplace violence and protect staff from being forced by their employers to step in during robberies. But some store bosses are furious about the plans, with the California Retailer Association mocking the move as an open invitation for thieves to come in and steal. And that's exactly what they're doing. According to the logic of this Senator Cortez, he thinks that the problem is employers, and I wouldn't even say that there are employers forcing their staff to confront thieves, but that's where they think the danger is when employers are expecting maybe their staff to do something about it, even though I'm not even sure that that's the case, instead of the danger actually being the fact that these thieves are just allowed to come in and take whatever they want, and they know that they won't be stopped, that there are no laws in place at this point to deter them from doing these things. So instead of putting laws in place that says, hey, we're going to criminalize theft, they're going to essentially make it difficult for even more difficult for these business owners to stop it from happening. So they're removing more barriers for these people to come in and steal. They're removing laws, they're removing enforcement, they're removing security measures, and now they're saying even the staff just has to step back and let it happen. So what's going to keep them from running into the store and taking things? Like, there's literally no reason for them to not do it at this point. And this is just a brief clip from the interview between Sean Hannity and Gavin Newsom. And this is who he thinks the problem is, or what he thinks the problem is when businesses shut down and leave.
Whole Foods did shut down one business, but there was a bad location to begin with. They're opening a new one. We have 2.7%.
My sister was out here recently with her team, and I said, don't go to the wharf.
Certain parts are bad, and we own that.
And you own that? Really? Like, do you really own that? So essentially it's the store owner's fault for opening up a business in a bad area. But I guess if you were to redefine the word area to just encompass the entire state of California, that statement would make sense. Because anything open in California right now would just be considered in a bad area. So I'm not really sure what Gavin Newsom's campaign slogan is going to be. Is he going to say, I'm going to do for the US what I have done for California? Like, look at my state. This is, just imagine this is what the whole US could look like. Like, I would think that that would be a losing message for him, but I have shockingly seen so much support for him still, even in his state, even, amongst people who have to walk through these streets of homeless camps, who have to deal with this theft, who have to deal with businesses up and leaving, and they get out there, and I've seen them comment on videos of this interview between Gavin Newsom and Sean Hannity, and they're like, that's my governor. So proud of him. So glad that this man is in charge of my state. So I know that he would have support, and he would have people behind him, no matter how delusional they are. So I'm not entirely sure that he wouldn't have a leg to stand on in the presidential race as much as we would logically think that he would. So I did want to get into this article that I was reading about Gavin Newsom's wife, and I promise that this is relevant. I saw this article and I clicked on it because I was kind of curious about what the situation was. And, it's a really tragic story. It says Gavin Newsom's wife opens up about survivor's guilt after accident killed her older sister. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but essentially she talked about the story about when she was a kid. I believe she was 6 years old, and her sister Stacy was 8. And at that time they were playing like tag or hide and seek or something like that. And her sister was hiding behind a golf cart, and Jennifer here didn't realize it. And she backed the golf cart up and killed her sister, which super, super tragic. And that is not something that I would ever make light of. And I mean this in all sincerity. I cannot even imagine having to deal with something like that. My heart definitely goes out to her and anyone that would ever have to heal from something like that. I mean, because we know from the outside looking in that they were kids, that, this was not intentional, that this was clearly an accident. But, try telling that to a little kid and, having to reinforce that in them, and then being the kid that has to grow up with that and just come to terms with the fact that this just was not your fault. So I completely, again, my heart goes out to her. That's horrifying. That is absolutely terrible. It wasn't until the end of the article that I really that really ties into the rest of what we're talking about here. So then she goes into, you know, different parts of her life, and she gets to 2008 when she married Gavin Newsom. And I didn't know that Jennifer here grew up in a conservative family. Apparently her father was a big Republican donor, so I thought that was pretty interesting. But she did marry Gavin Newsom in 2008, and they have 4 kids together. So you know, she's gone through some struggles in her life. She's gone through some things. Apparently, she was an actress, and apparently, she was one of the people that came out against, what's his name, Harvey Weinstein, disgusting, perverted, gross human being. And so she's faced all of these things. So she knows what struggles are like. And I would think that that would connect her to the people of California that are facing struggles as well, and make her want to recognize them even, you know, on a deeper level, because I think that that's what trials and struggles do for us. They connect us more to human beings because we can look at them and say, I've been through hard times as well. I want to help uplift you and use my experience to let you know that you're going to be okay. But unfortunately, Jennifer Newsom seems to have adopted the same level of gaslighting that her husband has, which is really, really unfortunate. At the end of the article, it says, with her husband rumored to be a future Democratic presidential candidate and due to leave the governor's office in January 2027, Siebel Newsom, I guess her maiden name is Siebel, told the LA Times her focus is on the Golden State. I want California to be that shining light on the hill, she told the paper, a place where we've achieved equity and women have seats at the tables of power, where there's no more wage gap, less violence against women, where we've institutionalized in government and in the private sector family-friendly workplace policies, recognizing that people have lives outside of work, and where your children are known to have the best start in life. A shining light on a hill? The only time California has ever been a shining light on the hill in the last several decades is during the 2020 riots, when all of the cities in California were on fire. And I have to wonder, when was the last time Jennifer Newsom stepped out of her multi-million-dollar home and actually had a conversation with someone who was not part of her country club? When was the last time she actually took a stroll down the streets of Los Angeles, or actually talked to someone in a school where their kid has to walk through a homeless camp just to get to the front doors, or visited with a business owner who can't bring in customers because of the human waste and the drugs outside of their front door? I mean, this is an article from June 16th, and this is just, again, a couple weeks ago. It says businesses are fleeing San Francisco in droves, leaving the city devastated as crime and drugs runs wild. And she says she wants California to be a safe space for women. The state of California has a district attorney who constantly releases violent criminals back on the streets to reoffend and terrorize innocent people, primarily women. And who do you think is suffering the most because of that? And women don't even have privacy in the state of California anymore. This is from an 18-year-old California high school student about the transgender policies that allow boys into the private spaces of girls.
Is and shall always be. I am an 18-year-old high school student and wanted to take this time to bring to your attention the current issue with biological men claiming they are women and in turn truly believing that they are entitled to use women's spaces. Firstly, the question we must address is, why are we affirming the mental confusion of this boy and putting the safety of women in jeopardy by allowing mentally confused men to use the women's spaces? Of course, any male who claims he is a woman will accept it. But what about the women? What about the true girls like myself who are female down to our DNA? Why don't we ever get a say in whether or not we are comfortable with this?
And I think one of the saddest stories that I have heard lately is this from this woman. She says California kidnapped this woman's daughter and gave her testosterone instead of the mental health support she needed. And this is just her story, and it had a very, very, very tragic ending.
My daughter was taken from her loving home because the state of California claimed I was abusive for not affirming her trans identity. I lost my daughter over a name and a pronoun. I promised to call her a male name. It wasn't enough. My daughter was not a boy trapped in a girl's body. He had mental health issues. Against my consent, my daughter was given testosterone instead of therapy. The LGBTQ group used her to to raise money for them. The abuse claim against me was finally dropped, but it was too late. By then, my daughter was in a horrible mental and physical pain. My daughter knelt down in front of a train. She was murdered by gender ideology. I beg you, stop pushing gender ideology.
And that's not an isolated incident either. There have been bills passed lately that would label any parent who chooses not to affirm their child's identity. That would be considered abuse in the state of California. And that means that that child could be taken out of their parents' home and put in the foster system. And this representative, his name is Scott Wilk, had this to say about it, and it was pretty astonishing.
Year 11 in the state legislature, and all the time we're proposing policies to protect children. After 11 years, I've come to a conclusion that we need to start protecting parents. That's just not happening. I've been here and witnessed a full frontal assault on charter schools, taking away parents' choice and how their children are going to be educated, to the detriment particularly of children of color. In recent years, we have put government bureaucrats between parents, children, and doctors when it comes to medical care. And now we have this, where if a parent does not support the ideology of the government, they're going to be taken away from the home. Now, I agree with both Senator Wiener and Senator Laird that today it only involves divorce proceedings. And frankly, a judge can already factor this in. But I can assure you it's not going to end with divorce proceedings. In the past, when we've had these discussions and I've seen parental rights atrophied, I've encouraged people to keep fighting. I've changed my mind on that. If you love your children, you need to flee California. If you love your children, you need to flee California. Flee California. You need to flee. We are moving towards the pathway of the Handmaid's Tale. California is becoming the new Gilead. And it just breaks my heart. I'm born and raised in this state. I love this state. I'm not going to stay in this state because it's just too oppressive. And I believe in freedom. And so I'm going to move to America when I leave the legislature.
And I think that that says it all right there. And he is, he's saying that this bill is insane, that all of the things that have been happening against parents and against students in the state of California are forcing people out. And he's like, this is too oppressive. I used to tell people to stay and fight for their state, to stay and fight for their homes. Now, if you want to save your children, then you need to get out of the state of California. And it just astonishes me because we see all of this evidence that directly contradict everything that Gavin Newsom and his wife are both saying when they talk about how wonderful of a leader he is in California. He needs to be this shining beacon in the United States. Yet every single thing that is happening there should send people running and screaming. And not only that, the last person that they should want to put in charge of the entire country is somebody who has philosophies and beliefs like this. And I have, back to Jennifer Newsom's story, I have nothing but compassion for the struggles that she has faced, but I do have to say I find it absolutely vile to use those struggles to tug at people's heartstrings, to create this illusion of being relatable to them, only to pretend that the people that you just pulled in with your emotion aren't being absolutely devastated by the policies that your own husband is imposing. Again, I know this was a long one, but there was a lot to cram in here, and I think it's important to not only just talk about the things and the way that what they're saying is completely contradictory to reality, but to provide examples and to look at exactly what is happening in this state. I mean, it says, this is just from a couple months ago. It says California and New York compete for who can lose more residents. It says results from the U.S. Census found that 2 Democrat-run states were almost tied for the highest population decline between April 2020 and July 2022 over any other state. Over 1 million residents left New York and California over the 2 years, according to the LA Times. Census data shows 524,000 people left New York, and California lost 508,000 residents during that time. Comparatively, Florida and Texas gained the most residents, with the Sunshine State gaining 706,000 and the Lone Star State adding 884,000 between April 2020 and July 2022. And I just have to add just one more little thought here. It blows my mind. The Democrat Party constantly insists that they are the party of the working class, that they're the party of middle class Americas, that they're the party of the marginalized, the people that are victim, the people that are struggling. Yet they are also the party that consistently and willingly puts people in charge that disconnect themselves from the struggles that they claim to be helping. They will level the state. They will let your city burn down. They will let you be used and abused and be overrun with crime, and then get up there and tell you that they're doing a great job, completely ignoring the fact that you are dealing with crime in your city, that it's not safe to even walk the streets, that women aren't safe, that children are being taken from their parents, and that, innocent, loving parents are being labeled as abusive, and whatever the issue is. And they elevate the elite and they separate the elite so much from the working class people, from hardworking families, from law-abiding citizens. And it just absolutely blows my mind. So let me know your thoughts on this in the comments below. I would love to hear anything else that you would like to add to the conversation, and what you think is going to happen if Gavin Newsom does run for president. Do you think he has a shot? Do you think that if it were between him and Trump or him and DeSantis, who do you think would win? And I would just love to have a conversation about that. Please hit the like button because it does help me in the algorithm. I would love it if you would subscribe. If you feel so inclined, hit the little thanks button and support the channel through a small donation. Otherwise, I will see you in the next one. Bye. So beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of gray.